October 16th, 1946, early morning darkness. Inside Nuremberg prison's gymnasium, 3 freshly painted gallows cast sinister shadows across the concrete floor. Within hours, these instruments of death would claim 10 Nazi war criminals who orchestrated humanity's darkest chapter. Among them stands a man whose sadistic reign over occupied Poland earned him a title that still sends chills down survivors' spines: the Butcher of Poland. If you're fascinated by the dark truths of World War II history that schools don't teach, then smash that subscribe button right now and hit the notification bell. Here at Timeless World, we bring you the most shocking, unfiltered historical accounts that reveal the true face of evil. Don't miss our deep dives into history's most notorious figures. Subscribe now and join us on this incredible journey through time. The making of a monster. Hans Michael Frank entered this world on May 23, 1900 in Karlsruhe, Germany, born into privilege as the son of a successful lawyer and a banker's daughter. Nothing in his comfortable childhood hinted at the mass murderer he would become. When Hans was just 10 years old, his mother abandoned the family for a lover in Prague, a betrayal that would scar the young boy forever. The First World War erupted when Frank was 14. By 17, he'd enlisted in the German army, though he never saw frontline combat. Instead, Frank's real baptism by fire came after the war's end when he joined the Freikorps, violent paramilitary death squads composed of bitter, defeated veterans who blamed communists and Jews for Germany's humiliation. These paramilitaries brutally crushed the Bavarian Soviet Republic, and Frank was right there in the bloodshed. But Frank's descent into darkness ran even deeper. He became a member of the Thule Society, a sinister occultist group obsessed with mythical northern lands and racial purity. This twisted organization sponsored the German Workers' Party, which Frank joined in 1919. That party would soon morph into something far more terrifying: the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the Nazis. Hitler's personal lawyer. In September 1923, Frank officially joined the SA, Hitler's brown-shirted stormtroopers. Just 2 months later, he participated in Hitler's failed beer hall putsch, a bloody attempt to overthrow the German government that left 20 dead in Munich streets. While Hitler went to prison for treason, Frank fled to Italy like a coward, only returning after the heat died down. Frank married Brigitte Herbst in April 1925, a calculating woman nearly 30 who'd told friends she had to marry before her birthday. She saw in the young lawyer from a wealthy family her ticket to the high life she craved. Their marriage was a disaster. Frank couldn't stand up to his domineering wife. And though Brigitte had no maternal instincts whatsoever, she weaponized their 5 children, born between 1927 and 1939, to control her husband. Her favorite manipulation? "Hans, I bore you 5 children." By 1929, Hitler appointed Frank as his personal legal advisor and head of the Nazi Party's legal department. As the Nazis clawed their way to power, Frank represented them in over 2,400 court cases. One former teacher begged him, "Leave these people alone. No good will come of it. Political movements that begin in the criminal courts will end in the criminal courts." How prophetic those words would prove. The rise to power. When Hitler seized control of Germany in January 1933, Frank's reward came swiftly. He became Bavaria's Minister of Justice, then a Reichsminister, then head of legal affairs for the entire Nazi Party. He founded the Academy for German Law and sat as a judge on the Supreme Party Court. Frank's perverted view of justice? The judge's role is to safeguard the concrete order of the racial community, to eliminate dangerous elements. On November 9th and 10th, 1938, came Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, when Nazi mobs destroyed 7,500 Jewish businesses, burned hundreds of synagogues, murdered 91 Jews, and sent 30,000 to concentration camps. It marked the point of no return, the transition from persecution to annihilation. Frank's wife Brigitte, who'd once traded furs with Jewish merchants, turned her back on them completely. One desperate Jewish man standing in line for an exit visa recognized her walking with friends. "Do you remember me? I need a visa for my family," he pleaded. She turned away and did absolutely nothing. King of the killing fields. September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, igniting World War II. When Warsaw fell and the Soviets seized eastern Poland, Hitler carved out a central territory called the General Government. He needed someone to rule it with an iron fist, someone who wouldn't ask questions. He chose Hans Frank. When Frank received his appointment, he rushed home to his wife and literally knelt before her, declaring, "Brigitte, you will become the Queen of Poland." And what a queen she became, a queen of death and plunder. Frank immediately moved into Krakow's magnificent Wawel Castle, the ancestral seat of Polish kings. He ordered Leonardo da Vinci's priceless masterpiece, Lady with an Ermine, one of only 3 Da Vinci oil paintings in the entire world, to hang in his office. The Nazis mockingly called his domain the Frank Reich. Frank spelled out his intentions with chilling clarity. Poland shall be treated like a colony. The Poles will become the slaves of the greater German world empire. Hitler intended the general government to serve as a racial dumping ground, an endless supply of slave labor, and the killing ground for European Jewry. The general government held 12 million people, including 1.5 million Jews. When Germany attacked the Soviet Union in 1941, they attached eastern Galicia, adding another 3 to 4 million souls to Frank's empire of death. The Reign of Terror. Frank unleashed a campaign of terror that shocked even hardened Nazi officials. Public executions became routine, 20 to 200 Poles shot at a time. Mass hostage killings, summary police courts dispensing death sentences like candy. In 1940, Frank cynically joked to a reporter about Czech students executed in Prague. Big red posters announced that 7 Czechs had been shot. I said to myself, if I had to put up a poster for every 7 Poles shot, the forests of Poland would not be sufficient to manufacture the paper. For this monstrous brutality, he earned his nickname, the Butcher of Poland. The economic exploitation was equally devastating. Food produced in Poland got shipped to Germany on such a massive scale that the occupied population faced starvation. Epidemics swept through the starving population. Over 1 million Poles were deported to Germany as slave laborers. The Warsaw Ghetto horror. In October 1940, Frank created the Warsaw Ghetto, the largest Jewish ghetto in Nazi-occupied Europe. Over 400,000 Jews were crammed in just 1.3 square miles, an average of 7.2 people per room. Running water, a luxury most didn't have. Proper hygiene, impossible. The daily food ration for Jews in 1941, a starvation level 184 calories, compared to 2,613 for Germans. An official German order coldly stated, "The basic provisioning for the Jewish residential district must be less than the minimum necessary for preserving life, regardless of the consequences." Hunger became so unbearable that dying people littered the streets while small children begged for scraps. Between 1940 and mid-1942, a staggering 83,000 Jews died from starvation and disease alone. Every morning, funeral carts made their rounds, collecting bodies that families had placed in the streets overnight. Frank's own son Nicholas later recalled that railroad tracks ran near their weekend castle. All the trains packed with Jews headed to Auschwitz passed right by. They knew. They all knew. On December 16, 1941, Frank gathered
senior officials and spelled out the approaching genocide with horrifying clarity. What should we do with the Jews? Do you think they will be settled in villages? We were told in Berlin, why all this bother? We can do nothing with them either, so liquidate them yourselves. Gentlemen, I must ask you to rid yourself of all feelings of pity. We must annihilate the Jews wherever we find them and whenever it is possible. And annihilate them they did. Starting in spring 1942, the Germans began systematically deporting Jews from the ghettos to extermination camps. By 1944, every ghetto in the general government had been liquidated, emptied through murder. Under Frank's jurisdiction, at least 3 million Jews were murdered, living like royalty on stolen treasures. While millions starved and died, the Frank family lived in obscene luxury. Hans ruled Poland like a medieval king, and Brigitte genuinely called herself Queen of Poland. They employed chauffeurs, housekeepers, servants, and cooks. Their homes overflowed with looted art treasures stolen from the Catholic Church and Polish nobility. Frank, who fancied himself cultured, played piano, loved opera and chess, and associated with artists like composer Richard Strauss, who even wrote a hymn praising him. Their weekend castle was decorated with furniture stolen from Polish aristocratic palaces. Frank's son Nicholas remembered his mother firing all attractive servants because Hans was a serial philanderer. Frank's sister even ran a cruel scam at the Krakow-Plaszow concentration camp, telling incoming Jews she'd help them survive if they gave her diamonds, then leaving them all to die. Brigitte herself drove to the Krakow and Warsaw ghettos in her open Mercedes-Benz to shop for jewelry, furs, and valuables stolen from doomed Jews. This woman had no shame, no humanity, no soul. In 1942, Frank reconnected with his childhood sweetheart and wanted to divorce Brigitte to marry her. But Brigitte refused to give up her status, declaring, "I'd rather be the widow than the divorcee of a Reichsminister." She told Himmler that Frank's lover was a Jew and intervened with Hitler, who told Frank he could only divorce if he resigned. Frank chose power over love. The beginning of the end. By 1944, the war was turning against Germany. On August 1st, the Warsaw Uprising occurred as Polish resistance fighters tried to liberate their city. The Soviets appeared across the Vistula River, but treacherously failed to help. The uprising was crushed with horrific brutality. 166,000 people died, including 17,000 Polish Jews who'd been hiding or fighting with the resistance. On October 16, 1944, Frank hosted a dinner at Wawel Castle honoring Oskar Dirlewanger, a Nazi pedophile whose unit of rapists and murderers had committed such unspeakable atrocities during the Warsaw Uprising that even SS commanders demanded their withdrawal. Frank praised them for their exemplary operations. January 17, 1945, with Soviet forces advancing, Frank fled Krakow with 3 trucks loaded with stolen art, paintings by Rembrandt, Raphael, and Da Vinci. He carried a fake passport and planned to escape to Argentina with help from the Catholic Church. But Frank was delusional. He actually believed he'd never face a military tribunal, that at worst he'd be exiled like Kaiser Wilhelm after World War I. When later questioned about the stolen art, Frank had the audacity to claim, "I did not collect pictures and I did not find time during the war to appropriate art treasures." Yet he'd fled with 3 trucks full of them. Capture and cowardice. May 4, 1945, American troops captured Frank at Tegernsee in southern Bavaria. Ironically, these were the same soldiers who'd liberated Dachau just 5 days earlier and had witnessed Nazi atrocities firsthand. They made Frank walk a gauntlet while they beat him. The Butcher of Poland crumbled. Unable to face even a fraction of the brutality he'd inflicted on millions, Frank attempted suicide. When that failed, he tried again 48 hours later, pathetically cutting his wrist. He later whined, "I tried to commit suicide because I sacrificed everything for Hitler, and that man left us all alone." His son Nicholas saw through this lie. Frank attempted suicide because he couldn't face being treated the way he'd treated others. The Nuremberg trials. Frank faced trial before the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg, charged with conspiracy to commit crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. At first, he claims to feel terrible guilt for the atrocities. But his actual defense? He wasn't responsible. He'd only ordered necessary pacification measures. The excesses were the SS's fault. And he claimed he didn't even know about the concentration camps. This was a blatant lie. His son Nicholas confirmed that his parents knew everything about the extermination camps. During the trial, Frank converted to Catholicism and claimed to have religious experiences. He and Albert Speer were the only defendants showing any remorse. Frank declared, "I am possessed by a deep sense of guilt. Those of us who are guilty must pay the price." October 1st, 1946, the tribunal found Frank guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity. He was sentenced to death by hanging. The verdict stated he was a willing participant in Poland's reign of terror, economic exploitation that caused mass starvation, deportation of over 1 million Poles as slave laborers, and the murder of at least 3 million Jews. Frank's response? Death by hanging. I deserved it and I expected it. The botched execution. The executioner assigned to hang the Nuremberg defendants was U.S. Army Master Sergeant John C. Woods. Woods had no documented pre-war experience as a hangman. Many historians believe he deliberately botched the execution to make the Nazi war criminals suffer. Woods used the standard drop method instead of the long drop favored by British executioners. The standard drop meant insufficient force to snap necks cleanly. The condemned would strangle to death slowly. Additionally, the trapdoor was too small, causing several condemned to suffer bleeding head injuries as they fell through. October 16, 1946, early morning, Hans Frank was the 6th of 10 Nazis executed that night. Remarkably, he was the only condemned man to enter the execution chamber with a smile on his face. His final words, "I am thankful for the kind treatment during my captivity, and I ask God to accept me with mercy." At approximately 2:08 a.m., the trapdoor opened. Frank fell, but with insufficient force to break his neck. For 11 agonizing minutes, the Butcher of Poland convulsed and strangled at the end of the rope before finally dying. He was 46 years old. His body was cremated and his ashes were scattered in the Isar River. Sergeant Woods later insisted he'd performed all executions correctly and stated he was very proud of his work. The aftermath. After the war, Brigitte Frank never said anything positive about the Third Reich. She died on March 9, 1959, on her son Nicholas's 20th birthday. The Frank children dealt with their Nazi legacy in vastly different ways. In 1987, Nicholas wrote a devastating book titled The Father, A Settling of Accounts, in which he denounced his father and questioned his supposed remorse. One of his brothers accused him of lying. Hans Frank's daughter Sigrid moved to South Africa because she liked apartheid. The other daughter, Brigitte, committed suicide at age 46 while suffering from cancer. She didn't want to outlive the age at which her father was hanged. There were no tears shed for Hans Frank. The Butcher of Poland got exactly what he deserved. The execution of Hans Frank marked a pivotal moment in history, proof that even the most powerful war criminals cannot escape justice. His 11-minute death struggle was nothing compared to the suffering of millions of
3 million Jews and countless Poles murdered under his brutal reign. This is the kind of raw, unfiltered history you get here at Timeless World. If this story opened your eyes to the depths of Nazi evil and the price of justice, then do not leave this page without subscribing. Hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and drop a comment telling us what you think about Frank's execution. Should it have been longer? Should he have faced worse? We want to hear from you. And check out our next video where we expose another monster who faced the hangman's noose. Remember, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Subscribe to Timeless World now and never miss another shocking chapter of history.